In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the use of named ranges. Now, what are named ranges? Let's first talk about a typical formula. In this case, I have a cost of a car and a down payment, and if I want to calculate the loan, I will click on those cells, and the cell references are B4 by minus B5. So as a formula, that's not very descriptive. If I were to name the cell B4 and B5 something more descriptive, and that were to show up in the formula, then that formula would be easier to understand. So how do we name the cell B4? There's a couple ways of doing it. One is to select on that cell, and up here in the name box I can just type the name I want to give it. So in this case I'll type cost of car. If I want to have spaces, I'll have to use an underscore because you cannot put spaces in the name of a cell. So I'll just type cost of car and hit enter. Now when I click on B5 it still says B5, but when I click on B4 it says cost of car. So if I wanted to name all of these cells, I could do it by running up here and typing the name in each instance, but a quicker way of doing it is to select that range of cells. So the cells I want to name and the names that are next to it in the column to the left. Under the formulas ribbon, there's a whole defined names group that allows us to mess with named ranges. I am going to create from selection. So I've selected the cells I want to name, the cells to the left that contain the names, and in this box I'll make sure it's checked that it's the left column. I hit OK. Now when I click on B5 it says down payment. This cell says APR, years, and payments per year. Now when I create a new formula and click on those cells, so for instance I'll calculate the payment, the rate is going to be this APR, and I need to divide that by 12. And so it's APR divided by payments per year. It's not referring to the cell addresses anymore, it's referring to the names that we've created. So the years are 5, and I need to multiply that by the payments per year. And then finally, the present value is the loan amount, which I haven't named. So that still brings in the B12. And I'm just going to close out my payment function. I won't fill out the optional pieces. But anyway, so there I get my payment. So if you've named your cells before you create a formula, the names will pop up as you click on the cells. What if I've already have formulas in my spreadsheet? I have since named the cells, and now I want those names to pop up after the fact. Well, what you can do is under define names, the grouping, you can apply names that you've created after the fact. So in this case, let's say I want just to apply, I'm going to unselect these. I just want to apply the cost of the car and the down payment. So I want to apply those two names to all the formulas where those cells are being used. So I hit OK. And now when I click on this formula, it will say cost of car minus down payment. Or I'll double click so you can see it right here in the cell. So I applied those names after the formula had already been created and previously had only used cell references. Now, one thing to be aware of with named ranges is they are an absolute reference. So for instance, on this I want to calculate the cost of gym memberships based on this table. So I am going to name that entire table, and the only way really to do that is to select the whole thing and then run up here and go give it a name. So I'm just going to call it membership cost, and I'll make it all one word. So now right here I'm going to type equal if. I'll do a VLOOKUP. I want to look up whether they want a deluxe and my table array. So I can run down here and select it, and it will fill in the fact that that's membership cost. I can also, if you happen to know the name, if you start typing, named ranges will show up in your IntelliSense list. So membership cost, I can now hit the tab key, and the fact that I want to return column 2 and have an exact match. Oops, I said I wanted to do a VLOOKUP and I did an if statement. So VLOOKUP. There, I'll put that in front. Now we're good. So here's the nice thing. I can drag that formula down, and my table array, the membership cost, is already absolute. So as I drag that down and click on any one of these, it's always going to be membership cost. So it's much easier to name your table arrays, and then you don't have to remember to absolute that reference before you copy your formulas down. Same thing with any cells that are basically constants in your calculations. So like all of these values that I'm going to use up here in this table, I can quickly name those cells by using that create from selection, left column. So now this cell is called locker fee, this one's called interest rate, and this one's months per year. So I will only demonstrate the locker one, but again, if I type equal if, in this case I really do want an if this equal yes, they do want a locker, then I'm going to include the locker fee. So again, I can either click on that cell in which it puts in the word locker fee, or I can start typing that word and it will pop up in my IntelliSense. I hit the tab key, and otherwise we don't have a locker fee, and I hit enter. But again, I can now just drag that formula down, and that red cell locker fee is an absolute reference. Locker fee is locker fee. It's not going to change on you as you copy formulas down. And the last thing I'll talk about under named ranges is this button right here called Name Manager. So in here is where I can manage all of the names that I've developed in my workbook. So you open this up, and this is the names on all of the potential worksheets. You can select one. It tells you the sheet that it refers to and the cell. The scope is the workbook. And if I want to edit anything, so for instance, whatever reason, I want to change that name to be cost of car without the underscores, I can edit that, hit OK, and now it has a different name. You can edit the reference to be a different cell if you want. You can delete it if you decide you don't need that one anymore. I can choose locker fee and hit delete on that particular one. So anyway, Name Manager is how you add, edit, or delete any of your name ranges. And by the way, I should mention that too. You can add a new one here. So I can type named range, such as date prepared. And I can then right here just type equal and click on the cell or what that name will refer to. So I'll hit OK. And now when I click on B2, it will say date prepared. So overall, named ranges are easy to use, and they can make your formulas much easier to understand by using them. And don't forget, when you use named ranges, it's for making that named range an absolute reference. So be aware of that when you're copying formulas.